What is going on, everybody? This is Sinué Montoya, along with John Case, for another episode of Daily Battlefield Applied.
Yeah. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be listening. Thank you for joining us.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really appreciate you joining us. So let's get things started as we normally do, John.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that.
Okay.
How do you feel?
I knew you were going to ask me about.
Well, come on now. That's what we do.
I figured you would. Okay, so actually, I gave it some real thought before we actually jumped on today, because a little bit of frustration this week, working on some projects, and you assume that communication is clear. You make the assumption that once you send stuff out there that it's been properly explained and that a certain procedure and outcome is going to be. And then ultimately when life is life and it throws you a monkey wrench, a little challenging at times. So this week dealing with a little bit, trying to overcome some challenges on a couple of projects that I'm working on, and but still trying to keep a positive outlook, positive mindset, and ultimately focused on the resolution at hand.
You're feeling frustrated, huh?
A little bit.
Well, let me tell you something, man. I'm going to tell you where you messed up.
Where did I mess up?
You made assumptions.
Well, I have redundancies in my system, so I can always follow. And it's in that following up and trying to get additional info that we find these little discrepancies here and there where potential hiccups may arise. So was able to nip them in the bud early and able to redirect, but it doesn't take away from the fact that, you take care of Sunday, let's call it last Wednesday, come to find out the following Tuesday, it didn't really happen. So we got to start the process all over again. It is what it is. But yeah, so just, keeping that in mind, understanding where it's coming from. And like I said, still trying to keep that positive mindset, positive outlook, resolution oriented mentality.
Nice. Very nice.
What about you? How about you? Where are you at?
So I have family visiting me from out of town, and I'm really excited about that. So excellent. I'm excited. I'm joyful. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I'm feeling a little guilty because I'm going to be leaving a little bit of work behind. Okay. But you need that. You need that in your life. You need that.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you a secret?
Yes, please.
You can leave the work there. It's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, there's a good chance it'll probably still be there when you get back. So enjoy the vacation.
Well, I would hope it'd be there. How about that?
It'll still, trust me, there's a high probability it'll still be there.
Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Well, I would hope it'd be there, because that just means good business,
Absolutely.
But it is important to clock out, and yes, the work will still be there, as you said. But anyhow, so today's going to be another one of those series of episodes where we're going to be talking about a common theme, if you will, or subject matter over more than one episode. And really, the topic that we're going to get into today is you can make a whole podcast around that topic alone.
Oh, there have been. I'm sure if you scour the interwebs, you can certainly find many folks who've given their 2 cents on this particular subject matter, for sure.
Yeah, which is actually known as Stoicism. Let's call it by what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Stoicism. Mm-hmm. And that's a big old word. And I like to just sum it up as manning up.
Okay.
If I could summarize everything that we're going to talk about in 2 words, is man up.
Okay. I like that.
That's so dumb.
No, dumb. No, that's your interpretation, and that's what we're here to discuss. We're here to delve into why you think that that's what it is, right?
Okay.
Right?
There you go. Spence in the air there. Let's clear it, and let's share with the people that what we're going to be talking about, which is a gentleman by the name of Marcus Aurelius.
Is he a new rapper? Is that a new guy hitting the scene?
Lil Marcus.
Little Marcus Aurelius. I like it. Okay.
Dropping some bombs on your mom, son.
Okay.
Yeah, take it to the bank, baby.
Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, that's okay. I was already thinking about my money. Don't jiggle. Okay.
Clearly, your mind is elsewhere today. I thought
we were talking about rappers.
Little Marcus Aurelius. This is his new hit compilation, Meditations, is out now.
Yeah. I was like, squirrel. But so yes, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So this guy was an emperor of Rome.
Mm-hmm. One of
The
the
guy
last
was
great
like,
ones, right? Like that's what they kind of I've read kind of the last great emperor of
I
his
mean,
time.
based on these writings, yeah, I would 100% agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
He actually his background is really interesting. I really encourage you to look into it. But the guy was cut from a really good cloth, and I feel like just from his background, it had a lot to do with who you turn into. Obviously, the wisdom that this gentleman brings is so profound. And then he goes on to say like, but it's like nothing new. I didn't invent any of this. It's just the human condition.
Right. All
So
right.
it's like he's so wise to capture all these thoughts and then just say, I didn't even invent it, son.
Yeah. Well, to me, the biggest, I mean, on top of everything that you're saying, that added layer of, to your point, he's emperor. So he's kind of the end all be all for his time,
Yeah.
right? Right. And the fact that he's actually striving, attempting, making the effort to be not just the best that he can be, but a truly good person, right? That's kind of what I got from the information was at the end of the day, I think he says be a good man. And
Yeah.
so that to me was like, wow, like you could do whatever you could do what you want, be where you want, have what you want. And instead you're sitting here pondering the work. I guess maybe it's because you have the time to sit around and ponder. Maybe you're not you're not slaving away, building the things, making the things, doing the things. So maybe you have the time to really look, to your point, at the human condition and really analyze what it is that makes us tick as human beings. And maybe that's where this kind of comes from, having the time to just sit and ponder. I don't know, just my own musings, if you will.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he had the time. He was running things, right? Although everything was slower back then. There wasn't like an email that just came through with an urgent message.
Right.
It was this guy that just ran 26 miles with, some news. But what I'm saying is like, I don't even see it from the perspective of the time or not. I see it from the perspective of just, I'm sure he had his flaws because he's a human being, right? But as I digested the content that he put together and understood it, I just kept the one thing that kept coming to mind is like a perfect man, like a
Mm.
perfect person who like does no wrong and like can see everything with the clearest mind and from all perspectives and always with empathy and like does like just perfect. And I know he wasn't because he was a human being. So I can tell you he was not perfect. Right. But if we were put on a scale and I was on that scale, I actually would not be on that scale. Because he just, okay. So like the things that the three biggest things that I took away from that. Right.
Go.
And I want to
Yeah,
hear your thoughts too,
absolutely. Go ahead. Go.
and when I said man up, because it's really for my simple brain, it allows me to like just summarize it with a crayon. And when I hear man up, it encompasses so many different qualities that he writes about. But for me, the three biggest are perspective. Okay.
Okay. Perspective.
Perspective.
I'm gonna write these down. Go ahead. Perspective.
Yep. Acceptance
Okay.
and disciplined focus.
Mm.
Those are my like in like obviously one word in one, except for the third one, I guess is two words
Two words.
or compound word, hyphenated word.
Hyphenated word. Yeah.
It's like a disciplined focus is, I interpret that as, you become what you think about most of the time. Right.
Yeah.
And it takes goddamn effort to focus on things of virtue and
Mm-hmm.
worthiness of your time. And that takes, discipline, right?
Mm-hmm.
To focus on those things. So that's why I say this. Acceptance is, he said whenever things become a challenge, you adopt that. You adopt that challenge, and you turn it into a part of your solution or as a part of an advantage. So in order for you to do that though, you have to have the mindset to see through a perspective that is not like blinded by the overwhelming emotion of whatever it is that you're dealing with that would, take your ability to stand back and accept whatever's happening so that you can then turn it into an advantage for yourself. Like that's that's so complex. What I just mentioned is so complex for me to even articulate properly, because it's such a profound ability to master your mind to do all those things.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's why I'm saying he's like a perfect person, man. Like how do you do that?
Because
How
you
do
have
you
the
do that?
time. I'm telling you, like I really believe time is a big some of my biggest aha moments, both in business and in life, have come when I've had the opportunity to just sit and think. When I haven't been bothered by the phone or the life situations or what everything that tries to draw your attention on any given day at any given time. And you just
Okay,
can
so
sit quietly and be like, okay, what am I dealing with? What is the thing? And in this case, he was looking at the human condition, right? Why are we the way that we are, and how can we improve on that? That's, to me, that's what I got from this. This was somebody who was looking at life and trying to understand sort of how things work, as well as provide a roadmap for improving on that. That's how I wasn't as eloquent as you breaking it down into like 3 separate criteria. To me, the substance of the whole was how here's a roadmap, here's some tips, some guides, and some strategies for helping you traverse the inevitable challenges that you're going to face as being a human being.
I don't know, man. I mean, I hear what you're saying on a lot of those points, but where I guess deviate from you is time, right? Because we all get the same 24 hours. I don't know who said that. Somebody way smarter than me said that. We all get the same 24 hours. Right? You, me, Bill Gates, the guy down the street that,
But how you use it is the difference. If you're a day laborer, let's use the example of a day laborer, just on a roof somewhere, putting in a new roof for a house, for example, and you have to be super careful to not break the tiles, to not fall off and break your neck, pay attention to the sun, pay attention to your materials. Are you really thinking about life?
no, but I mean, you're not, but you have time throughout other parts of your day to think about things.
True, no, but I'm saying like the depth that this person went to was somebody who had the time, like to really think of that, like uh to really kind of dig deep into, because these are like core ideas that he present. This isn't just kind of like surface stuff. This is really analyzing me as a human, to your point, and kind of how we start the podcast, looking at your emotions and the things that drive you, and him taking it to a next level and saying, well, not only do we have emotions, but we have to be mindful of those emotions, as well as what we do with them, right? Are they helping us? Are they hindering us? And if they're hindering us, learn to control that part of ourselves to help us achieve whatever we're trying to achieve. uh, to me, that's a higher level. You've now entered into a different space, because now the mind body connection is being separated, and it's saying, no, the mind has to tame the body. I believe that is one of the refrains in the different books that we read, that the mind has to be the one in control, and the mind has to be the one that tells the body what to do.
So yes, that actually resonated with me a whole lot. There's that um, prior service celebrity, Jocko Willink, I think his last name is pronounced.
I believe you're right. Yep.
Yeah, and he writes about that, and he discusses, or excuse me, he describes how he experienced that during his deployments, right? And leading up to the deployments, as in training, everything you do to become a SEAL.
Mm-hmm.
And having control of your mind is what allowed him to be so successful and to take on the missions he did with the significant mental fortitude that he did. So he was able to, you know, accomplish really difficult things because of his control in the mind. But that's like, listen, man, as a regular person, I feel that it's so difficult to have control of your mind. And then that's where the habits come in, but it's freaking difficult, man. I struggle with that. Like, if I'm being honest,
I
I
think we all
struggle with
do.
that.
Well, I mean, I think that's everybody, right? I don't think you're different in that capacity than anybody else. It's the awareness, the acknowledging of what's kind of where I started. I started with frustration, right? That's what I said. That's where my mindset was at certain points this week. But it's not just sitting there in the frustration and, allowing that to spiral. It's okay. I understand that I'm frustrated because the things that I thought were going to happen in my business didn't happen the way that I expected them to. Okay, let's put that on the table. But now what can I do to welcome the challenge, and what can I do to still get me to the place I want to get to, as opposed to just being embroiled in that emotion and spiraling in that emotion, and then possibly doing something that will negatively affect the result that I want. I'm results oriented, right? At the end of the day, there's a certain specific thing that I would like to happen. And at the end of the day, that's my focus, as opposed to wallowing in the inevitable frustration of, well, I didn't get, or it didn't happen the way that I wanted it to happen.
Okay, so you know what? Focus. You become what you think about most of the time, right?
Yep.
So perspective, acceptance, and focus, right? I struggle with all three of them, right? However, I guess what I would take away from all of this, in order to improve the perspective and acceptance of things in my life, I can focus on how exactly how I focus on my time on certain things throughout my daily life.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing can be said for anybody, right? But as you mentioned, being aware of those thoughts. So having a mechanism, or a habit, I should be saying, a habit that teaches you or trains you to circle back, to get the gauge, to check the gauge of where your thoughts are,
Mm-hmm.
and what thinking of those things is doing for you. And if it's not positive, then understanding why are you having those thoughts, and how can I shift them to positive thoughts?
Well, I mean, absolutely. And to a certain extent, think about what we're doing with this right now. This is kind of that. On a weekly basis, we're checking in, we're figuring out where we are, and then we're sort of recalibrating based on the conversation that we're having to hopefully be able to continue to improve the business. So, for example, we kind of developed this. Everybody doesn't have to have a podcast in order to do that. This is just something that kind of organically developed from our conversations. But I think that's the gauge, right? We have a conversation. Hey, man, I'm struggling with this, or I'm having challenges there. What possible solutions or options do I have available to me? And putting in a new roadmap of action to help execute to get to that point. Kind of organically, we reached that point, you and I. But that doesn't mean that everybody else couldn't do that as well, correct?
Yeah, and even well beyond what we're currently doing, because that always can be improved upon. And
Mhm.
and again, having the discipline to check those things so that your progress is moving in the right direction. And that progress can be how you think throughout your day, and how that impacts the decisions you make throughout your day and the actions that you do or don't take.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it's so difficult though.
It is. Well, that's part of one of the key things that I pulled away from the meditations was adversity is part of nature, right? In anything, there's going to be challenges. The idea of kind of going through life without being challenged, it's kind of a folly. Inevitably, something will happen that will test you, but it's in that test that you grow as an individual, that you can explore maybe different parts of yourself that you didn't know were there, and can hopefully ultimately help you thrive and become the person that you can be, like the full 100% of yourself, whatever that may be.
Well, you know what, to add to that, the exploring parts of yourself that you found that weren't even there, you have to also accept, because I found, okay, that there are going to be some parts of yourself that you don't like, and feeling open and honest with yourself enough to expose those parts.
Mm-hmm.
And shine a light on them so you could try to rectify what that is. One of the things that I really took away from this meditations was the concept of you haven't you are where you are in your life according to all the decisions that you've made, right? But you shouldn't let the fact that you haven't hit every single goal that you have had in mind, or every single aspiration that you have in mind, the fact that you didn't hit every single one of those shouldn't be a detractor to your future self. You should take what you have left right now of your life, which is wherever you are in your age, and understand how fortunate you are to have that going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And make the most of the time that you have left with all of the experience and knowledge and insight that you've gained in the last X amount of years leading you up to today.
Mm-hmm.
And if you happen to have made a lot of really good choices that have you in a place where you're sitting pretty, then, further compound your success based on that. But if you're in a place where you've made a few choices that have perhaps even set you back, then you learn from that and you say, okay, from here, this is now where I'm going. I'm going to a greater place based on the experiences that I've gleaned and learned throughout the way, rather than, woe is me, this is the worst, this sucks. The end is near, it's
Yeah.
all over,
Right.
because it's never over until, well, it's over, but it's never over until then.
Right. Well, I mean, I've heard the saying, it's never over until essentially like you give up. That's when it's over. If you keep trying, it's not over. If you keep at it, if you keep making the effort, the spark is still there. You can still continue to make improvements, to gain ground, and hopefully get to where you want to go. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
But it's so hard. Well, listen,
but I guess I mean, how about this? I know we're gonna need to wrap things up, but to that last point that you just said, that it's so hard, this goes into the heart of what he's saying, what Marcus is saying, which is life is challenging, life is tough. There are evil people in the world. To think that there are not is silly. To think that you won't be challenged is silly. To not expect adversity is silly. These are all things that will happen to you. So be prepared for it, and begin to know yourself so that you can learn how to overcome it. And that's the work, right? And to your point, knowing yourself. One of the things he also says is to be honest with yourself, to not lie to yourself. I believe that's something to that effect of have some self-respect, I think is the way that they phrase it, right? And so, I mean, acknowledging that it's hard is one thing, but letting that beat you is another. There are a lot of difficult things out there, correct? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they get to win. It just means that you may have to be a little more creative, be a little more persistent, be think a little bit more outside the box in order to get to where you want to go. But it's still there. It's still available to you, and you can get there.
That is true. It is still there. That's the thing. It is still there. You just have to figure out, the new way of getting there.
Absolutely.
All righty, my friend. Well, hey, listen, as always, I really appreciate our insightful conversations.
Absolutely.
And I hope that those listening take one thing or another from these conversations as well. I will tell you, and I think you'll agree with this, a lot of the success that I've had in my life was just given to the fact that I was always open to learning more and, coming across things I haven't heard about before and exploring them to understand whether, I could take something away from it or not. And we hope that we're bringing some of those topics to you.
I couldn't have said it myself. Absolutely. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
Excellent, man. Until next time, I look forward to it.
All right, guys. There you go. See you guys on the next one. Thank you for listening.